Hi, fourth graders. Welcome to our second steps lesson today. As you can see from the screen, our goal today is figuring out how to handle put downs because everybody is going to have situations where they feel like somebody else is putting them down. So instead of encouraging them, which we wish would happen all the time, they feel like somebody is saying the opposite, right? So we're going to see some different ideas that we can use to handle put downs. We're going to identify strategies that we could use, and we're going to go back again to that assertive response. Remember, assertive means you are not aggressive, you're not like in somebody's face, but you also don't just wilt away and take it. So if somebody says something mean to you, you don't just turn into a puddle and just feel bad for yourself, but you might actually say some words to them, not aggressively and not a put down back, but you might say some words to them to let them know how they're making you feel and what you'd like them to do. All right. So we're going to try practicing some of that. Now, to get ready, I have an interesting video here. I want you to imagine that this flower is actually a person, because in this video, there's going to be some voices, and I want you to watch what happens to the flower. All right, take a look.
You're so stupid. I can't believe you wore that to school. What a dumb thing to say. That looks ugly.
Did you see what happened to the flower? That's kind of what happens to people's feelings or their emotions when they hear words like that directed at them, right? If you hear words that put you down, you kind of shrivel up a little bit. Even if you don't do it physically with your body, you do it kind of on the inside, right? And so if you think about when somebody uses words like that to you, and if that's how that's making you feel, if that's where it stops, then you kind of end up like that shriveled flower, right? If we don't do anything different, that's just all that happens. But we can try to kind of interrupt that by when we start to feel that way, we can be assertive and we can say, hey, you know what? That really hurt. When you said that, that made me feel bad. We shouldn't say things like that to other people because you wouldn't like it if somebody said something like that to you. Sometimes that's all it takes to make the other person think about it and go, oh. And you know what, fourth graders? A lot of times kids don't even mean to say things that are a put down. They might say it as like a joke, right? But then your reaction doesn't feel like a joke, right? Your reaction feels like they were being serious and they might not even know. So sometimes just being assertive and saying those words is all that it takes. Now, we all know if it continues to happen, right? If it's somebody who does this over and over again, now it's a bigger problem. Now it's not just a put down, right? Now it's somebody like targeting you and kind of bullying you. That's a whole different thing. But we're talking about just if somebody's like, yeah, that was dumb. They might have meant it as like a joke that you could laugh off, and you really felt it as they don't think I'm very smart, right? We need to make sure that we say things, we say the words to let that person know, hey, that's not very nice. And at that point, it gives them the opportunity to say, oh, I was just joking around. I just said that like, you know, out off the blue. Like, I wasn't really meaning you were dumb. And then they can explain themselves and you can have the conversation. Whereas if you just shrivel like the flower, then they don't really know and you still feel bad, right? So being assertive and actually having a response can be really helpful. Okay. Now, I love this quote. It says, blowing out another's candle will not make yours shine brighter. Sometimes when people feel bad about something about themselves, then they point it out in other people and make them feel bad too, right? And what this quote is saying is that's not actually going to make you feel better. That's not going to actually fix it about you. So if you're feeling like, oh man, I don't really like this outfit I'm wearing to school today. And if you point out somebody else is like, look at those shoes, it doesn't actually make you feel better about your outfit. It just brings somebody else down, right? So sometimes we need to think about maybe why the other person said something. And maybe we can even help them and say, why are you making fun of my shoes? Right? Everybody wears whatever they want. It really doesn't matter. What matters is who you are on the inside and how you act. Might actually change their thinking a little bit. So be careful about that you don't just assume, we talked about that last week, that they're just being super mean, right? They might be kind of covering for something they feel in themselves too. All right, so we have a video about a character named Derek, and I want you to watch and notice that it already says, Derek says he felt like hitting Jason. Because sometimes when somebody's really mean or says something that puts us down, we do feel like physically responding, right? And then I want you to think, well, what could he do to keep himself from reacting that way? Just like last week, we watched and she just wanted to yell and scream at them. And then she realized that wasn't the best decision. Let's think about it for Derek, too.
We were getting our spelling test handed back. I didn't do very well. This kid behind me, Jason, looked over at my test and started giving me a hard time about it.
Hey, Derek, look at all those you got wrong. You must be so stupid because that test was easy.
I was so mad and embarrassed that I just wanted to hit him.
So now let's think about Jason. What if Jason oftentimes gets a lot wrong on tests? Could he be putting Derek down because he knows how he has felt bad and he doesn't want to be the only one? Maybe. It doesn't sound like Jason is joking around. It doesn't sound like he's just trying to be funny with Derek. So I don't think that's the reaction. So in this case, it's even a different situation. It's maybe somebody just not saying something very nice, just putting you down. And that can happen too. Now, one thing is if you react in a big way, that kind of gives that person power to do something like that to you again. But if you don't react in a big way, then they're like, oh, well, I said that, but I guess they didn't really respond very much, right? That can be an option, just not a big response at all. Or Derek can decide maybe to talk to Jason and say, hey, really? Like, one, you didn't need to look at my test. Two, that's not nice to talk about how I'm not very good at this, right? That could be another option. Sometimes you have to think through there might be more than one thing. So to calm down, we've talked about this so many times. Use that signal. Name what you're feeling. I'd say he's feeling anger. And he's also probably feeling disappointed because he's not happy with how his test went. And then give yourself positive self-talk after you count yourself down, right? That's something that we can do in almost any situation to help us make a good decision for our reaction. All right, so let's watch how Derek responds. We talked earlier about aggressive. It's like in your face and kind of like mean back. Assertive means you tell them how you feel and why. Or passive means you just kind of let it happen. Let's see what he chooses.
I just wanted to hit him, but I knew if I did that, I'd get in big trouble. So instead of letting my emotions get the better of me, I stopped myself, recognized that I was getting really mad, then said some things in my head like, it's not worth getting in trouble over this. I'm not going to let Jason get to me. I also decided to stand up for myself and say something, but I didn't want to make matters worse. It's not worth getting in trouble over this. I'm not going to let Jason get to me. It's no big deal, Jason. Spelling isn't my best subject. but I'm really good at math.
Oh, and I noticed his facial expression changed throughout that. He looked really, really disappointed. Then he looked mad. He was kind of like puffing out his cheeks. And then you could kind of see him thinking through his options. And at the end, he felt good about what he said, right? He wasn't mean. He didn't put Jason down, but he kind of built himself up. Okay, spelling isn't my best subject, but I'm awesome at math. It's okay. Not a big deal, right? That's another way that you can respond, right? Not putting the other person down, because then you're doing the same thing back and that's not going to help anything, right? But responding in a way that builds yourself up and then shows them that they don't really have power over what you're doing. All right. So, one really important thing to remember in all this, when you handle a put down, remember, you know what? I am important. In fact, everybody's important, right? So, if you can't get somebody to stop, you can certainly talk to an adult. But if it's happening once, you could probably figure out something that might solve it yourself, right? You can walk away and not let them get the power over you. You can respond in an assertive way and tell them how you're feeling. You can build yourself up and tell them something good about you if they're putting you down, right? But remember, everybody deserves to feel safe and respected at school. So we don't want to respond in a way that's going to make others feel bad. And we don't want to respond in a way that's going to get you into trouble. All right. See you next time.